liaison for the Freeman Environmental Youth Council. This is the 6th year of Youth Council, which is a district-wide extracurricular club of high school students that come together to work on projects and events around environmental advocacy. I'm pretty impressed constantly by these students. They give up their own free time, their energy, they bring their own ideas and enthusiasm and knowledge to youth council work. And it's not part of a course, and they don't get paid for it. And they show up a couple times a month to meet and organize, and then they show up for special projects and events that they put on. So I think that's pretty impressive for high school students that are willing to do that. Willing today to stand out under a rainy tent and sort through a bunch of trash, right? So I want to sort of acknowledge the above and beyond way that these students approach this work. The Youth Council is part of Ann Arbor Public Schools' goal of developing student leadership around environmental stewardship and advocacy. And each year we have more interested students than we have open seats, which I think is another testament to our community and the amount of engagement that we have. Youth Council is open to new applicants, 9th through 11th graders at the beginning of each school year. So if you have students in your life that go to Ann Arbor Public Schools that would like to be a part of this work, please encourage them to apply come fall. We have our council organized into 3 subcommittees. So we have a group that focuses on education efforts, a group that focuses on service efforts, and a group that focuses on advocacy and action efforts. This group you're hearing from today is our Action and Advocacy Subcommittee that organized the Our Trash Tells a Story workshop, and they're here to share about their results and some takeaways and implications for what it means. So first, please give a round of applause for Maisie.
Hi, my name is Maisie. Thank you all once again for coming today, and also to everyone who participated in our workshop in the tent outside earlier. Like Mr. Wright said, we're part of Freeman Environmental Youth Council, which is a district-wide leadership group that has representatives from almost every high school in Ann Arbor Public Schools. And we came to last year's teach-in to give youth perspective on the event, and we are super duper excited to be invited again to participate and be back this year. So at today's workshop, we had a fantastic time exploring our ways together and having meaningful conversations with everyone who attended about how each of us and our community as a whole can take steps to truly reduce our environmental impact. As members of Youth Council, we've been leading waste audits like this at the Ann Arbor High Schools for the past 3 years. So for those who don't know, a waste audit is a process used to identify the types of trash an organization or a group generates and the amount of each type that there is. So we take everyday waste, and instead of throwing it out and sending it straight to the landfill for a selected period of time, we collect that waste and then we sort it out. And that's what we did today at today's workshop. So just this past January, we had 3 different waste audits that we had at each of the 3 largest high schools in Ann Arbor: Skyline, Pioneer, and Huron. Here's some photos of that. And these audits took place during the lunch period. So instead of letting people throw out the food and all the different waste they were taking to the trash, we took all the trash cans to one place, and instead of having people throw them out, we had them put all their waste onto separate tables, and then we as youth council members sorted them into those bins, as you can see up there, to truly sort of just investigate what is really getting thrown out at all these major high schools and in the cafeteria. And in these most recent audits that we've had this year, we made a striking discovery. We learned that only about 1/4 of what Ann Arbor Public Schools students were tossing out actually needed to go to the landfill. The rest of all this waste that we collected that was going to the landfill, if we hadn't audited it, could have been recycled or composted. The issue is, at the high schools, we do not have access to composting in our cafeterias, and there's a lot of challenges around recycling, including a lack of access to rinsing stations for many of the recyclable materials. A lot of the recycling bins get contaminated with different trash. making it so they can get recycled as well. And then there's also a big issue with proper staffing to consistently get the recyclable materials to the outside dumpsters unbagged and where they should be, rather than just getting thrown in the trash. And I'm super excited to have Aurora come talk to you today about what we learned today at our waste audit.
Hi, my name is Aurora. The members of Youth Council and I were super excited to come here today to investigate the waste of those in our community, both for awareness of our own waste streams and to see ways that reducing the use of single-use materials can reduce our overall impact on the environment. We have photos of today's waste audit on the screen. Everyone involved had a great time, even though it was a little cold and rainy. For those who weren't able to attend the workshop that we held outside, we as youth collected our personal waste for about a week, and we also invited our attendees to bring trash to store as well. We had a great turnout. About 40 people attended our workshop, including about 10 students. During the workshop, we sorted the waste into 3 main categories: landfill waste or trash, such as wrappers or styrofoam; recyclables under Ann Arbor guidelines like cans, glass bottles, cardboard, and paper; and compost, food waste. We acknowledge that there are attendees today that live outside of Ann Arbor and who have other recycling and composting guidelines or access to curbside pickup that may differ. But for today's audit, we focus on the City of Ann Arbor rules. We base our store on how Ann Arbor solid waste is managed at the Resource Recovery Center on Platte Road. There, Ann Arbor trash is transferred to semi-trucks and driven to the Woodland Meadows landfill in Canton. Recyclables are sorted at the material recovery facility and sold to manufacturers within a 200-mile radius. Organic waste is managed at the compost center, and finished compost is used in local farms, parks, lawns, and gardens. We now like to present a bit of a summary of the audit. Today, in total, we sorted through about 35 pounds of waste. The specific breakdowns of this audit are as follows: 11 pounds of compost, which is about 31%, 17 pounds of recyclables, which is about 49%, and 7 pounds of trash, which is about 20%. It is important to note that not all of this may have ended up in the correct piles if it were actually at a person's house. Josie is now going to lead us through a group discussion on our takeaways from this audit.
Hi everyone, I'm Josie. For anyone who's a part of today's waste audit, does anyone have any comments about what they learned or what surprised them that they want to share with the whole group? Please will come around with a microphone.
If you raise your hand during the workshop, we're going to really ask you to be brave and share something now. You didn't need it. Good.
So one thing I learned today was that the way that glass is recycled is it gets broken down. It gets broken into smaller pieces and it falls through all of the plastic and other things through these grates. And so you're not supposed to recycle anything that's smaller than your fist because it can fall into that glass and then it'll become a bad batch and won't be able to be recycled. So one thing that I have been doing when I recycle is I would take caps off of the bottles, like water bottles or pop bottles, because I thought that I was helping make somebody's job easier. Well, that isn't the case, and I know better now, so that was a great piece of information to learn today. So I learned that you should leave the caps on.
Great, thank you so much. Does anyone else have any?
Almost every recycling bin, in my experience, even the better ones with lots of pictures, leaves some uncertainties in my mind where to put things. The most common example is a paper cup. Got a paper cup. Where does that go?
I would say if a paper cup has a wax coating, then it can't be recycled, then it needs to be put in the trash, like it's just paper. It can often even be composted or recycled.
I toured the compost facility and the MRF, and I learned that if you have a glass bottle with a metal top, you don't put the top on, you separate them, because those two things go to different locations.
Thanks. I think building on some of the others, there's always ambiguity in recycling. So one of the things I learned is it's the purchasing decisions that make a lot of difference here. And so, trying to limit things that can't be recycled or composted at the purchasing level.
Great, thank you so much to everyone who just contributed. Sort of as was already said, some of our major takeaways were that our biggest category was recyclables, which is good, but it's also still something that we can work on, reducing the amount of recyclables or finding ways that we can switch out for reusable items to just reduce our amount of waste overall. And then another big takeaway is that our second biggest group was compost, which is also good. Just the trash is sort of at the bottom. But making sure that compostable items actually make it to the compost is really important. Because a lot of times in our waste audits we see that a ton of things are compostable, but they don't actually make it to the compost in most people's households or in businesses. Next up we have Amani to talk about more about landfill waste.
Hi, I'm Amani, and as a council, we have actively been exploring the issue of waste in our communities, something that plays a central role in many environmental challenges. For example, did you know that when organic waste, like food scraps, break down into landfills, it produces methane? Methane is a greenhouse gas that is more than 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide at trapping heat in the atmosphere, making it a major contributor to global warming. Just like what we saw in today's audit, as we consistently observed during the school audits we've led, a significant portion of what gets thrown away doesn't actually need to be thrown away. Much of it could be recycled or composted instead of ending up in a landfill. In particular, during all of the council's waste audits, one type of item that has repeatedly made up a significant portion of waste are single plastic items. Many mainstream plastics are designed to be used once and then discarded. These packaging generates consistent and harmful plastic waste. These plastics do not decompose and simply break up into smaller fragments of waste and continue to impact our environment for decades. Most of these long-lasting plastics are made of petroleum or natural gases, which are extracted from natural environments. These damaging extractions cause significant habitat damage and the release of large amounts of greenhouse gases. These single-use plastics can be replaced by many more biodegradable and reusable and sustainable alternatives. While these alternatives are more likely to be reused, reduced, and properly recycled, it is still important to note that certain plastics, such as 1, 2, and 5, can and should be recycled. Now we will go on to Heather talking about some solutions to our issue of waste.
Hi, I'm Heather Schreiber, and some of the traditional solutions to diverting waste, including plastic from the landfill, are obviously recycling and composting. Currently, the City of Ann Arbor is extremely committed to recycling and has an extensive recycling system that recycles many different types of materials. Ann Arbor also has an amazing composting program that includes residential composting, and it's also picked up monthly throughout the winter. However, in busy school settings or large public spaces, properly sorting waste and finding recycling such composting bins can be a real challenge. Recycling and composting bins aren't always visible or accessible, which makes it harder for people to divert waste from the landfill, even when they truly want to. Furthermore, it is important to acknowledge that these solutions are not financially accessible to everyone. Many sustainable alternatives for plastics and other wastes come with higher upfront costs or are only sold at upsell stores. Proper recycling and composting equipment can be expensive and hard to find. Those with financial limitations should not be pressured to buy products out of their price range and should not be ashamed of the waste that they produce. That being said, there are many different ways to reduce waste that is free of cost and easily applicable to the lives of many people from a different range of financial backgrounds. As a community, we feel it is very important to make sure that everyone has equal access to recycling and composting. For example, in Ann Arbor, some apartments and condo complexes have different rules for recycling and composting that can make it really complicated. One current solution the city is implementing is citywide input sessions to gain feedback on different composting and recycling systems. Those are actually happening on Monday and Friday this week on a Zoom link. Also, even if an item is genuinely recyclable, the environmental impact doesn't end there. Significant waste and pollution can still result from the product's entire life cycle, including manufacturing, transportation, and packaging. Joel Harder, a professor at the University of Colorado, points out that most of the waste actually starts at the design and distribution stages of a product supply chain, rather than at the point of disposal. Furthermore, the process of recycling takes energy, water, and infrastructure, further contributing to the negative environmental impact of the product. Up next, we're going to have Peyton talk about our different findings from our audit.
Hi, I'm Peyton. These facts about waste management have led us, as a council, to ask an even bigger question. Instead of focusing only on where our waste ends up, how can we focus on creating less waste in the first place? We have come here today to advocate for a reduction in overall consumption in both our schools and broader community, and to contribute to the creation of a circular economy. For those who may not be familiar with this term, a circular economy is an approach that focuses on extending the life of products through strategies like reusing, repairing, redesigning, and infusing, and additionally to recycling and composting, in order to reduce the need to constantly buy new items and maximize the use of products we already have. A focus on creating a circular economy reminds us that recycling and composting are not our only solutions for minimizing the amount of waste that goes into landfills. Single-use plastics, a major problem we referenced before in today's presentation, are a crucial place for us to apply this idea. It is important for us to recycle what we can, which is, under City of Ann Arbor standards, clean plastics labeled 1, 2, and 5. However, we also need to acknowledge that many standards, including Ann Arbor's, can't work with softer plastics, and the quality of plastic that can be recycled tends to degrade during the process. Thus, while recycling plastic is a great place to start, we need to shift the focus toward reducing our plastic waste overall and extending the life of items we already have. We can shift toward bringing our reusable ones or bringing at home. Instead of plastic bags and plastic wrap, let's consider reusable bags and beeswax wraps. Overall, we can be conscious of our purchasing habits. A transition toward less single-use plastic and towards less waste overall is not easy, but with thoughtful, consistent action, we can make a change. Up next, Alif is going to talk to us about our concluding remarks.
Hi, I'm Alif. I'm going to close this out. So we're constantly reminded that the consequences of climate change and environmental degradation are some distant threat. They're actually unfolding around us right now. As young people, we're often told that this crisis is ours to solve, that the future rests on our shoulders. But when it comes to waste, this isn't something youth can tackle alone. The products that we use each day are the result of countless individual choices. Waste is a human issue, not just a youth issue. That's why we're asking you to not leave this responsibility to the next generation. We need all hands on deck. Each of us plays a role in turning our shared vision for a greener, more sustainable future into real, everyday actions. This is your opportunity to show what it truly means to care for the world around you, and to leave a legacy that brings joy, beauty, and hope to future generations. We hope today's waste audit and the strategies we shared sparked new ideas and inspired action. We encourage you to take the next steps on your own journey
to reduce waste and shrink your carbon footprint. One great place to start is by conducting your own waste audit at home. Try collecting your trash for a week, then sort through it to see what it's really made of. You might be surprised, and it's a great way to create a personalized game plan for reducing your waste going forward. To keep the momentum going, consider joining Ann Arbor Zone Once a Month Club, a group under the local nonprofit ZeroWaste.org. It is a community of local residents who are committed to reducing their waste and sharing creative, practical solutions. The Once a Month idea is working to put out just one landfill-bound curb cart per month. It's a great way to stay connected and supported as you take on new habits. And finally, we want you to zoom out and acknowledge the bigger picture. At the federal level, we're seeing budget cuts and shifting priorities that threaten essential environmental protections. That's why we urge you to support organizations like NOAA and the EPA, agencies that play a vital role in safeguarding our planet and ensuring the long-term success of the environmental movement we're all part of. What happens at the national level directly affects our future here on Earth. We're excited to see how Ann Arbor continues to grow its circular economy, and we thank you for being part of that journey. Thank you.